In today's video, I'll be going through my editing process on Capture One and how I make digital photos look like film. It's a lengthy one, so get your cup of coffee and get comfy. If you've been following recent videos, you would know that I've switched over from Adobe Lightroom to Capture One. People have several different reasons for switching from either or, but my reason was pretty simple. It was to save a bit of money because I was paying for the full Creative Suite, and I was really just using two of their programs, Premiere and Lightroom. I wasn't really using Photoshop or After Effects, definitely not After Effects, and it just didn't make sense to be paying monthly to be able to edit my photos. So I was looking for other options, and Capture One, I've been told many times by many people to switch to Capture One, and finally I did. To be honest, there really wasn't anything wrong with Adobe Lightroom. It did everything I needed it to do, but having since switched to Capture One, there are a few things that I didn't realize I really enjoyed and wish I had back when I was using Adobe Lightroom. One of those being the fully customizable workspaces that you can do within Capture One. But this isn't a Lightroom versus Capture One video. This is going to be a chill video of me just going through my editing process. And yeah, we'll be just editing a few images, black and white images as well as color images. This is a how I edit video, not how you should edit video, because at the end of the day, editing is really, it's a way to personalize your own photography and edit in a style that is your style, I guess. So you should really just edit the way you want to edit. But hopefully this video provides a little more insight into my process, and maybe you'll learn a few things along the way. For me, editing is really just a supplement to the process, and I don't want to be in a situation where I am trying to save a photo with my edit. That says something about the photo to begin with, right? You're gonna have a difficult time if that's what you're trying to do all the time. So try to get it right, get your exposure right in the field, your composition, all of that. And you'll find that the editing process becomes a lot more simplified for you, because the way I see it, it should be the photo or what I'm capturing, the composition, that should be the main focus, not the way you color graded a photo. My approach, it's pretty simple, mostly because my knowledge of Capture One is pretty simple. I've only been using it for a few months now, but I do try to achieve a few things with every edit. One of those is to create a film-like look without the digital cheesiness that you often see. I want to emphasize dominant colors if there are any, and I also want to emphasize bold shadows if there are any. Lastly, I want to remove any minor distractions to the composition if that's possible. So these are 4 things that I try to look at and tackle with every single photo, and they're basically the foundation to my editing process. Alright, so this is Capture One. Let me quickly show you how I have my workspace set up first. So this is a simplified workspace here, and I have basically 2 tool tabs, or windows, however you want to call it. One is basically all the different things that I use with every single edit. So I have basic characteristics where you can apply the Fujifilm profiles. I have an exposure tab, white balance, tone curve, high dynamic range, clarity, color balance, color editor, black and white, film grain, sharpening, rotation and flip, and an adjustments clipboard. I use pretty much all of these, maybe minus black and white, depending on if it's a color photo or a black and white photo, with every edit. And I wanted all those tools in one window. And for the tools that I use once in a while, crop, keystone, noise reduction, purple fringing, dehaze, vignetting, spot removal, these are just like the once in a while tools where it's not getting in the way of the main things I want. So I keep it off in this separate tab. I think as a default on Capture One, you have a lot of these things on separate tabs, and I didn't really like that process of having to constantly switch between different tabs to do the things I wanted to do, so I just put all the main stuff in one single tab. Alright, so this is the first photo that we are going to work on. I took this in New York a couple weeks back on the X100V. You can see the settings are in the bottom here. Yeah, and then we'll see a before and after. This is the before, and this is the after. Let's get right into it. So I have this variant where all the edits are not applied. I kind of look at the crop first and see if there's any major compositional things I want to do first, but in this case there really wasn't any. So we're off to an easy start here. But first I would typically go to exposure and adjusting that to a proper level where I can kind of see what I'm working with. Keep it around there for now. Next I'm going to adjust the white balance because I remember this being a lot cooler and not this warm when I was taking this photo. And we'll just go into white balance. And I'm kind of just eyeballing this as well. I'm going to skip adjusting the tint for now and just head into the tone curve and make some adjustments to the contrast. I like to usually just do a simple S-curve, and I really don't do all too much but bring down the shadows. And I'll do the same for the RGB curve as well. So I've definitely added a lot of contrast compared to what we had before. I also increased the brightness quite a bit. You're starting to see the picture kind of come closer to that final product. So the high dynamic range tool, I'll typically use this if I need an extra push to the image. In this case, I really don't. But you know, if this highlight was, say the highlights were really blown out here and I wanted to bring it down a bit further than I could with the tone curve, I'd make an additional adjustment with the high dynamic range tool, but in this case it's really not necessary. So the color balance is probably the key tool to color grading, and I try not to go very far with this because it's easy to overdo a color grade in my opinion, and I try to keep it as natural to the moment while also giving off that film-like look. Hey Google, lamp on. Let's turn the lights on. It was getting a little dark. Alright, so I'm going to stick to the midtones here. I think I can bring it more towards the greens because it is pushing a little too far to the magenta right now. That kind of balances it off a little bit. Actually right there. Really looks like I didn't do much, but it's a very minor, subtle adjustment or push to the greens. Okay, so I'm really liking the overall color of the image right now, so I'm going to move along to film grain. And I like to use tabular grain and pump that boy up to about 70. You really see it here and in the steam clouds here. It might be a little bit too far. You know, there's no shame in going up and down with different tools. I find that's kind of the way I tend to edit because I want to see how a specific tool's changing my image, and I'll kind of just drag it up and down while looking at the photo. I think 6 to 5 is a good level. And I'm going to stick to the 50 level grain. And yeah. We're closing in on a final image here. I might as go as far as say that it's already done. So there you go. That's first edit. to the first photo. Okay, so before we continue on, I want to quickly talk about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Whatever your goal might be in 2022, maybe it's, learning a new editing software or finally starting that YouTube channel, there's likely a class on Skillshare on that goal. One of my goals is actually to become more proficient in Final Cut Pro. I'm actually taking a Skillshare class right now on Final Cut, taught by Ali Abdal. Ali runs a YouTube channel with over 1 million subscribers, so it's pretty safe to say that he's made quite a few videos on Final Cut Pro by now, but I'm taking this class, and what I really like about Skillshare is how incredibly streamlined it is as compared to, going down the rabbit hole of YouTube videos. You have something that's neatly organized, where each learning segment is divided up into different chapters. You can visually see your progress as you're learning, and oftentimes Skillshare classes have different projects for you to work on along the way. So I'm learning a lot watching his class right now, and hopefully it translates to the production quality of my videos. Skillshare is offering the first 1,000 of you to use my link in the description to get your first month free off Skillshare Premium. The experience on Skillshare is completely ad-free, so you can put all of your attention to what you're learning. So thanks again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Link will be in the comments and in the description, so definitely give it a try. Alright, so this is the second photo that we're going to edit, and I took this a couple weeks back in New York on the X100V as well. You probably saw it in my latest video where I shot SantaCon. I kind of had to leave all the madness, and I ended up taking some reflection photos. But yeah, I think this might be one of my favorite photos I've taken all year, which is pretty funny considering it was kind of a incidental photo. So here's a before and after. Really just adding contrast, brightening it up, and making some specific color adjustments as well. This is also after crop, so here is the actual original photo because I did flip it. I try not to take reflection photos with the intention of flipping it upside down. But in this case, when it works, it works. So in the case of this photo, we're going to start with the crop first, and I stick to the same ratio, 2:3, and you kind of just want the edge before you see his foot. And there you go. We'll flip this. And there. Cool. So we are going to go to exposure and brighten this photo up because it is a little underexposed. Stick around there for now. White balance is looking okay, but I'm going to bring it just a tad bit down to the cooler side. And we are going to add some contrast with a simple but effective S-curve. Okay, so we have the contrast applied, but there are a lot of colors in this photo that I want to emphasize and bring out into this image. Mainly that red and the blue here in the corner, as well as a bit of the blue in the sky that's being reflected. So we're gonna go over to color editor, and go to those specific colors and pump the saturation towards the right. And you can see just doing that already did a lot, and we'll do the same for the red. Awesome. So I'm going to go back to exposure, bring that up a little bit, and we'll go back to film grain. So I'll do the same tabular grain, and I'll look at the levels. That's going to be way too much. I think that's good. I notice a few little things that we can actually remove with the spot removal, just to clean it up just a tiny bit. Actually, we'll use the draw healing mask, get rid of that little dot there, and what looks like a cigarette in the water. And there you have it. This is the final image, and you can see a before and after. Alright, cool. So this is the final photo we're going to edit, and we're going to do a black and white edit. Editing black and white is pretty simple because there's a lot less things you have to worry about, that being color. What I like about this being a black and white edit, first of all, and this kind of helps me make the decision of when to choose color versus black and white. You can see here there's a lot of colors in this photo. We're in Times Square, obviously, and I find these colors behind these two subjects distracting from what I really want to be the focus point of this photo, and that's their eyes and how they're both looking off behind me. When I turn this into a black and white, your eyes aren't distracted by the color that's behind them, and your eyes go directly to their eyes, and that's basically the power of black and white, where you can make your viewer focused on the thing you want the viewer to be focused on, and just eliminates that distraction. And I didn't even do any like brush tool brightening up of their eyes either in this photo. It's basically just a black and white edit that's doing most of the work. So we'll start here with the original, and the first thing we'll do is turn it into a black and white photo, obviously. Boom. Next, we are going to bump up the exposure because the photo's looking pretty dark. Around there, it's pretty good. Awesome. So we are going to mess around with the RGB curves here. And that's just going to bring in some contrast. We'll do a simple S-curve yet again. And you can see that this minor adjustment of bringing the shadows down, it's darkening this lower part. And in doing that, basically pushing your attention upward to their eyes. I'm also going to bump up highlights. You know, I'm thinking it's a little too dark, so I'm going to bring it back just a tiny bit. There we go. That way I'm not crushing the blacks too far. White balance, nothing I need to do there. High dynamic range. I can see if I want to make a highlight adjustment here. Yeah, I'll do that. Color balance, I don't need to do anything. Color editor, obviously not. Here I'm going to add in the film grain. I'll do tabular grain, 75. I think that looks good. Okay, so I guess at this point in the edit, I'm just looking at the photo and seeing if there's anything else I can do to bring more attention to their eyes. I think I might actually raise the highlights up again. Or we can go into exposure. Let me see what brightness we'll do. So I'm not entirely sure what brightness does and how it's different than exposure, but it is kind of achieving what I want to do, and that's just brighten up this section a little bit more without doing much to these darks down here. See if I can bring this down a bit further too. I think that works well. We can crop in a little bit. I'm gonna just see what it looks like. My original edit of this photo didn't have a crop like this, but I find it somewhat beneficial. I think it works. And that is the final product. You can see before and after. So there you have it. That is basically my simple approach to editing Fujifilm files in Capture One. It's really simple because that's kind of the way I want it to be. You know, I don't want to overdo anything, but at the same time, I'm trying to achieve a certain look, but not go way too far with it. You know, thanks to Fujifilm's color science and their picture profiles, a lot of that film look is already being done within the camera, and I'm just emphasizing it even more with that additional grain added in post. If you like the look of these edits, I have a brand new preset pack made specifically for Capture One. There are basically 6 presets within the pack, and they get you off to a pretty good starting point. So yeah, if you want to check it out, really appreciate it. It goes a long way in supporting my channel. And yeah, all my other presets are on sale going into the new year, so if you haven't had a chance to grab one, now's the time. Alright, I hope this video served as some insight into my process. It helped out a few of you. If you're watching this and you're an avid, experienced Capture One user and you've been laughing at me this entire way, definitely leave a comment and let me know some Capture One tips. It will definitely help me out. Alright, until next time, see ya.